Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Dear watcher, dear subscriber, dear teachers, dear parents, hope you will be fine and in the high state of iman and health. Today we are going to cover a on-demand lecture on the reading and on the text oral text or dictation of Goodbye Mr. Chips by James Halton, and I'm going to give you the study of the first chapter. So let's get started. Mr. Chips and Goodbye Mr. Chips by James Hilton, the writer, the novelist of the novel, and chapter number 1. Chapter number 1. When you are getting on in years, but not ill, of course, you get very sleepy at times, and the hours seems to pass like lazy kettles moving across a landscape. It was like that for Chips as the autumn terms progressed and the days shortened till it was actually dark enough to light the gas, to light the gas before call over. For Chips, like some old sea captain, still measured time by the signals of the past, and well he might, for he lived at Mrs. Wickett's just across the road for the school. He had been there more than a decade, ever since he finally gave up his mastership, and it was Brookfield for more than Greenwich time that both he and his landlady kept Mrs. Wickett. Mrs. Wickett, Chip would sing out, Mrs. Wickett, Mrs. Wickett, Mrs. Wickett. Chips would sing out in the jerky, high-pitched voice that had still, like Mrs. Wickett, still a good deal of sprightliness in it. You might bright me a cup of tea before prep, will you? The next paragraph is going to starting from here. Next paragraph. When you're getting on in years, it's nice to sit by the first and drink a cup of tea and listen to the school bell sounding dinner, call over, prep, and light out. Chips always would. Sorry, there was a issue in slide. Chips always wind the first form and wound up the clock after that last bell. Then he put the wire guard in front of the fire, turned out the gas, and carried a detective novel to bed. Rarely did he read more than a page of it before sleep came swiftly and peacefully, more like a mystic intensifying of perceptions than any changeful entrance into another world. For his days and nights were equally full of dreaming. He was getting on in years, but not ill, of course. Indeed, this word was in these lines were in or these words were in parentheses. Indeed, as Dr. Merivals said, there was really nothing the matter with him. My dear fellow, you are fitter than I am, Merivale would say, sipping a glass of sherry when he called every fortnight or so. You are past the age when people get these horrible diseases. You are one of the few lucky ones who are going to die a really natural death. That is, of course, if you die at all. You are such a remarkable old boy that one never knows. But when Chips had a cold or when east winds roared over the Finlands, Merivale would sometimes take Mrs. Wickett aside in the lobby and whisper, look after him, you know, his chest. It puts a strain on his heart, nothing really wrong with him, only Anno Domini, but that's the most fatal complaint of all in the end. Anatomini by Jove, yes, born in 1848 and taken to the exhibition, not expedition, great exhibition as a toddling child. Not many people still alive could boost a thing like that. Beside chips, could beside chips could even remember Brookfield in Weatherby's time. Weatherby, another character in person's stands, a phenomena that was Weatherby had been an old man in those days, 1870, easy to remember because of the Franco-Prussian War. Franco-Prussian War. Chips had put in Chips has put in for Brookfield after a year at Melbury, which he hadn't liked because he had been ragged there a good deal, but Brookfield he had liked almost from the beginning. He remembered that day of his preliminary interview, sunny July, with the air full of flower scents and the plick-plock of cricket on the pitch. Brookfield was playing Burnhurst, and one of the Burnhurst boys. Page number 1 is completed here, and we are going to start from the page number 2 right now. So, dear students, boys, a chubby little fellow made a brilliant century. Cure that a thing like that should stay in the memory so clearly. Weatherby himself was very fatherly and courteous. He must have been ill then, poor chap, for he died during the summer vacations before Chips began his first term, but the two had seen and spoken to each other anyway. Chips often thought as he sat by the fire at Mrs. Wickett's, I am probably the only man in the world who has a vivid recollection of old Weatherby. Vivid? Yes. You can see in the picture Brookfield School in front of you, and the yard of Brookfield School, and in front of Brookfield School, Mrs. Wickett's house. I am probably the only man in the world who has a vivid collection of old Weatherby. Vivid? Yes, it was a frequent picture in his mind that summer day with the sunlight filtering through the dust in Weatherby's study. You are a young man, Mr. Chipping, and Brookfield is an old foundation. Youth and age often combine well. Give your enthusiasm to Brookfield, and Brookfield will give you something in return, and don't let anyone play tricks with you. I gathered the discipline was not always your strong point at Melbury. Well, no, perhaps not, sir. Well, no, perhaps not, sir. Never mind, you are full young. It's largely a matter of experience. You have another chance here. Take up a firm attitude from the beginning. That's the secret of it. Perhaps it was he remembered that first tremendous ordeal of taking prep. A September sunset more than half a century ago, big hall full of lusty barbarians ready to pounce on him as their legitimate prey. His youth, fresh complexioned, high-coloured and side-whiskered, old-fashioned people followed in those days. The ode to days are in parentheses. At the mercy of 500 unprincipled ruffians to whom the betting of new masters was a fine art and exciting sport. and something of tradition, decent little beggars individually, but as a mob, just pitiless, and implacable, the sudden hush as he took his place at the desk on the days the skull has assumed to cover his inward nervousness, the tall cloud ticking behind him, and the smells of ink and varnish, the last blood red rays slanting in slabs through the stained glass windows. Someone dropped a desk lid quickly. He must take everyone by surprise. He must show that there was no nonsense about him. You there in the fifth row, you with the red hair, what's your name? Page number 2 completed here. Page number 3. College. College, sir. My name is College. Very well. College, you have 100 lines. Now trouble at all after that he had won his first round. And years later, when College was an alderman of the city of London and a baronet and various other things, he sent his son, also red-haired, to Brookfield, and Chips would say, College, your father was the first boy I ever punished when I came here 25 years ago. He deserved it then, and you deserve it now. How they all laughed, and how Sir Richard laughed when his son wrote home the story in next Sunday's letter. And again, many years after that, there was an even better joke. For another College had just arrived, son of the College, who was a son of the first College. And Chips would say, punctuating his remarks with that little that had by then becomes a habit with him. College, you are a splendid example of inherited tradition. Here is mean tradition. I remembered your grandfather. He could never grasp the ablative absolute. A stupid fellow, your grandfather, and your father too. I remember him. He used to sit at that far desk by the wall. He wasn't much better either, but I do believe, my dear College, that you are the biggest fool of the lot. Roars of laughter. A great joke, this growing old, but a sad joke too, in a way. And as Chips sat by his fire with autumn gales rattling the windows, the waves of humor and sadness swept over him very often until tears fell, so that when Mrs. Wickett came in with his cup of tea, she didn't know whether he had been laughing or crying, and neither did Chips himself. Dear students, the reading of the page 3 has been completed, and we have read the chapter 1, and the story tells us many great influence. There is an incident of College, the first College, the second College, and the third of their grandson College, and there is also the character of Mrs. Wickett. There is also the some glimpse of the previous school where Mr. Chips taught, and also there are some different type of views, and also there are some different type of gadgets also. Or and beside we have got an idea that Brookfield school is in a right side, and the Mrs. Wickett's house is in on the left side or in front of the Brookfield. So this was the first chapter, and this was the reading of first chapter for all my Baconian students, for all my students, they want only the reading, they want only the oral view of the first chapter of Mr. Chips. So I have put the first chapter in front of you. So guys, let me go now. We will be right back with you with the new topic, with the new gossip, with the new lecture, with the new vlog. We have another channel also naming Hope and Cause Info TV. You can also subscribe that and hit the bell icon, and you can also subscribe my main channel by the name of Professor M. Raza, my official channel. If you didn't, so please subscribe. And let me go now and say with me, do something more for humanity. Bye bye.